let's move to our next presentation by Anirudha Murdio, who is the head of data governance with Kotak Mahindra Bank. He has more than 16 plus years of technical as well as functional experience in the field of data management, data governance. Currently, he leads the data governance program for Kotak Mahindra Bank. Previously, he has worked with several IT companies, organization, MNC, banks such as Wipro, Capgemini, Bank of America, etc. In India, outside with most of experience in banking and financial service domain. Can we welcome him with big round of applause, please?
So, I think there is a lot of talk about regulatory compliance and data governance, right? So specifically because of there are a lot of regulations which are coming around your sensitive personal data, right? So I will just we'll just talk about how data governance can help meet this regulatory compliance. It is not a magic bullet as such, but definitely it will help you set up a foundation which can certainly get you started when it comes to a regulatory compliance. So we will talk about my viewpoint about regulations, compliance and data, challenges around regulatory compliance, what is data governance and how data governance helps in compliance, and of course summary. So I think since last 2 years, probably due to COVID, we have seen an accelerated pace of digital transformation, right? Customer data is being exchanged at the multiple places. Is being shared outside your organization as well as inside your organization, right? There are multiple touch points when it comes to your customer data, right? And again, there is a proliferation of social media. So that is the reason your payment apps, right? So data is being exchanged at multiple places, multiple instances. It is being stored at multiple places again. So that is the reason it has become essential to make sure that your customers, your employees' personal data is protected. Is secure. Right? Now, if you look at the regulatory landscape as such, the GDPR, the European Union's GDPR, it was the first overarching regulation which has come into picture with respect to personal data. But we have our own RBI guidelines, we have our own IT Act, which is not overarching framework, but yes, it does talk about so what is sensitive personal data, how should we protect it, and what are the challenges when it comes to if you don't comply to those guidelines. And if you look at other regulatory landscape, there are regulations coming from Africa, UAE, Singapore, and we have our own personal data protection bill, which is, I hope, will come sometime next year. And we have also seen, so we from banking, we have seen a lot of scrutiny from regulators, right? They want to know how do we protect our sensitive PII data, what are the controls that we put around our sensitive PII data, right? And how data governance helps you to mitigate some of these challenges, right? As I said, it's not a magic bullet which can take care of each and every aspect of your regulatory compliance, but it will certainly help you to make, set up a foundation and build some reusable capabilities that meet your regulatory compliance. So what are some challenges, right? So first, foremost challenge, I think some of our speakers have also highlighted that understanding the scope of coverage, right? You have on-premises systems, you have cloud, and you have third-party vendors with whom you are exchanging, sharing data, and you are sharing data in multiple ways, right? So one of the basic and one of the most important is understanding the scope of coverage when it comes to your sensitive PII data. And if you are a big organization, like some of the gentlemen have pointed out, and they have multiple data warehouses and they don't know where to start. So that is again the complex application landscape. The next part is lack of control, right? Inadequate data access controls, and then inadequate controls over data being shared with your vendors, right? It could be your employee data, it could be your personal data. Third thing is the time and effort required. So when your regulator comes to you and asks you for some data requirement, so generally there are compliance team, you have a IT team, you have a risk team, you have information security team. Probably that is the point where there are a lot of communication happen between these various teams, and it certainly involves a lot of time and effort, and there are lack of tools or technology also. And this is where the challenge arises, where you want to make sure that there is a communication, there is a coordination among teams. And if it is not there, this is where you spend a lot of time and effort just to get back to the regulator. lack of ownership, absence or lack of accountability when it comes to your data. Who are the owners, who are the stewards of your data? Probably this is one of the very important thing, and we will see in the next slide how this can affect the entire regulatory compliance. And then inability to enforce the data policy. So I think most of you are aware what data governance is, right? I think, but I will just quickly walk you through this slide. What it is basically it is the process of usability, traceability, accountability, and security of your data. It encompasses your people, process, and technology. These are the three main pillars. And then it makes sure that your data is secured and it is properly managed and audited. Right? So what it does is data governance is establishes, controls, monitors implementation of your policies and procedures standard, which in turn regulates, controls, and protects your data. Right? So the diagram that you see on the extreme left, right? So these are some of the basic building blocks of data governance. Now, is it the final diagram for data governance? I would say no. It depends on your organization, your priorities, the use cases that you want to address. So this diagram is subject to change, right? Some of you might have already started. You may have some. Probably you may not have a formal data governance program, but you might have already started, defining your data, building your glossaries and metadata catalog, right? So, but if you these are the basic building blocks when it comes to data governance, and then people, process, and technology. We will see how it can help in this regulatory compliance. So in some of the organization data security, you have a separate CISO office which can take care of all the policies and processes related to CISO. So you can, again, this can be taken out of this data governance framework as such. As I said, it depends on your own priorities and requirements. So how does data governance helps? So first thing is, as I said earlier, lack of ownership. So when you set up a data governance program, you set up a data governance operating model, right? So this is the place where you can ensure representation from all the required stakeholders. It could be your risk team, it could be your operations team, it could be your IT teams, and that is where you can prioritize regulatory requirements and make sure that those are enforced. Next important block is policies and processes for data. Now this is the place where when you start defining your policies around data, your processes around data standards, yeah. So you can make sure that all the regulatory data requirements are considered or embedded in this during this phase. If you have some new regulatory requirements coming up, you may want to revisit your already defined policies and processes for data, and you can make sure that they are embedded in your process and policy design. Now, the critical data and metadata catalog. So I think I heard the gentleman said that you don't want to boil ocean. I think which is absolutely right. Now, how do you define your critical data? Where should you start actually? So I think that depends on your own business requirements, your priority areas. If you are addressing the regulatory requirements, probably you want to go back to all the regulatory reports that you are designing. You want to make sure that all the critical data elements, critical data fields from those reports are identified, they are properly defined, and make sure that all the applications which are feeding to those particular regulatory reports, the metadata from those applications are captured there, and the data lineage or data traceability is built. Again, the next point is control data access and sharing, one of the most important thing. So I think to address this area of data governance, it becomes essential that you put a privacy agreements in place for you with your vendors. Control data that is being shared inside and outside of your organization. And how do you do that? Probably inside of your organization, you make sure that the access are enforced at the role as well as attribute level. So you should be able to mask the data, you should be able to encrypt the data, and the people who are supposed to see the data, only they should see the sensitive PII data. Right? The next thing is data discovery and classification. You should have an ability, of course, as a part of your data governance program, you should be able to detect the sensitive PII data. You should be able to classify it, tag it, so that it can be consumed, it can be utilized by other stakeholders across your organization, right? and you should make sure that the record of all the PI data shared with vendors, it is already there. Because see, in my case, probably we have multiple vendors, multiple third-party vendors. Data is being shared. Some data is being shared over FTP. Some data is being shared. People keep personal data on their laptops also. I think that is where it becomes very essential that you should properly keep record of all such activities. Who are the vendors? What type of data is being shared? And these details should be at the data attribute level, right? If I am sharing, I have more than 100 odd PID fields. So what are the sensitive PI data fields? Probably, I think 15 or 20. You should know if you are sharing data with your vendors, what is the data that is being shared with your vendors. So that record has to be there. Data quality management, again, it helps you make sure that the data that you are using, the business rules, whatever the business rules about the data, they are properly captured. Again, you can tie back your data quality management to your critical data. When you define your critical data, you should define the business rules also. And when you implement your data quality monitoring solution or management, that is where you should concentrate on. Now, how do you operationalize all these things? I mean, can we carry data governance without any data governance tool? I think we can, but then again, how do you operationalize? How do you make sure that other stakeholders from your organization are able to access or able to understand what the data is? So you should have data governance tool, data privacy tool, or identity and access management tools in place to make sure that all these blocks are operationalized. Without even these things in place, probably I can still carry on without data governance tools in place, but then I need to maintain hundreds of Excels to make sure that data lineages and data catalogs are captured, data definitions are captured, and it's something not very easy for other people to use. So I think data governance tools, technical tools certainly helps you to operationalize the data governance within the organization. So with that, I think I'm okay. I'm done with my presentation. Probably just to summarize what we have done so far. So regulatory compliance, it's not optional. So accountability, data ownership, needs to be not operational. You should be able to identify, and in fact, you should identify data owners, data stewards, yeah. Because without them, probably you can go up to a certain point, you can build a nice tool, but you cannot last long probably, because that is where they are the actual owners, and they are the people who understand the context of data, what data is, and so it is very important to have data owners and stewards identified. So of course, data governance comes with, even if you are starting data, so some of the organizations, they start data governance as a risk initiative, some of you start as a data security initiative, some of you just want to make sure that, improve the understanding of usage of data across the organization. So I think, data governance, it's a dual benefit. You make sure that data meets your requirements, at the same time, you can improve understanding and use of data across your organization. So what does data governance do probably? So it is not going to solve, if you look at even GDPR as such, so data governance probably is not going to solve all the GDPR related points, but it can certainly help set up a foundation which can again adapt to changes. Multiple regulations coming in, you can build a common usable abilities with data governance, and that is the place you can go forward. So as I said, you can start with prioritizing your business areas, subject areas. Then you can drill down to what is your data. Again, you can drill down to what is your critical data, define it, make sure that all the critical systems are cataloged, and probably that is where other stakeholders can utilize this entire metadata. They can utilize it to understand what data is, where it is lying, what impact it can cause, data lineage, metadata catalog. That is the place where other people can understand it. So I think I'm pretty much done with it. If you have any questions, you can ask me. No questions?
Thank you. Yes.
So what are the tools right now in your organization you're using for data governance?
Well, we have certainly implemented data governance tool. Probably I would not say which tool we have implemented, but we do have a data governance tool implemented. So the approach that we have taken is a top-down approach. We have simultaneously started tool implementation, use case identification, implementation of those use cases, bringing multiple stakeholders on board forming a data governance council, because as far as leadership is concerned, they are pretty much aware what data governance is and what is the importance of data governance. So there is a visibility at the top level. Yeah.
Anything from machine learning AI perspective that from a data governance point of view have you implemented?
Sorry, I missed that.
So I was asking that from a machine learning or artificial intelligence perspective, anything from the state of art that you've implemented in data governance?
I think I was talking about data discovery and classification. So this is the place where you can, there are tools in the market which has got AI ML capabilities, which can auto detect your PI data, which can automatically classify and tag that data. If you look at your data warehouse, data lake, so this feature becomes very important, because manually you cannot go and find all the data, right? Even if you take a case of PI data, you should know where it is and what all places it is lying. So AI ML capabilities comes very handy.
Just a follow-up question on that. Were you able to get a silver bullet to found out all these into a single tool, or it's a multiple solutions which you have used for in terms of data quality or discovery or governance perspective?
See, as far as I am aware, there is no single tool in the market which can take care of all the aspects of data governance, including data quality, right? So the implementation that we have seen, data governance tools are separate, data quality tools are separate, right? Then you have a MDM, entire MDM, which is again, it's a bigger project in itself. So there is no silver bullet, but as I said, if you are prioritizing your critical data and metadata catalogs, your data governance tool can come handy. If it is about access controls, you have to have identity and access management tools in place. Yeah. And if it is data quality, again it has to be a different tool. But if you have a budget and if you can spend that much money, there are some vendors who has that data governance and quality bundled into a single tool.